The other day when I kind of was trying to explain to you guys, please turn off your monitors and look up here for a minute. I was trying to explain to you guys that if you bring in a drawing from AutoCAD or something and you start to turn it into solid shapes and you extrude it up, that the zero plane is now buried a foot down. And after a while, that night, I sort of thought, you know what I should have done is brought in the drawing, okay, and moved the drawing down a foot. Then we can extrude anything that had to have thickness up. And that would have been, I think, an easier way to kind of understand it. So I'm going to go ahead and delineate that for you guys real quick, or show you how that might work. So I'm going to do it in this same file. So I'm going to try and click File, Import. And let me find this thing real quick. I believe I put it over here. Yep, there it is. So there's the site. It's already selected. So I'm going to kind of move it over back into here somewhere. All right. So let me slide it back that way. I've got my grid snap turned on, so I know that I can move it kind of evenly. So one of the things that I wasn't real clear about the other day that I want to be clear about now is that all of this stuff right here is all going to end up on the zero layer. Okay, unless there's some piece that that wasn't on the zero layer when it was in AutoCAD, but I believe that everything in this thing should be on layer 0. And I could tell by highlighting it all and looking down here that it all is on layer 0. Okay? So what I was mentioning to you is that the simplest way to do this might be to move it down a foot. So in order to kind of clarify that, I'm going to kind of hide all of this stuff. So we're just looking at that thing right there. Okay, so I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to click on that thing right there and say negative 12 inches or negative 1 foot, either one, and it moved down 1 foot. Okay, now additional techniques that I wanted to kind of cover for you on how to build, how to use geometry from another program, bring it into this program and use it. Is going to include things like trying to use the actual line work. I walked in the back. Jonathan was having a hard time kind of getting this curvature to work as an object. So here's one way that you might approach that. You might try holding on the Shift key and selecting, all right, the pieces that make up this sort of perimeter. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just move it over a distance, and I don't know how far that's going to be, but I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click over here, and I'm going to type in negative 1,000 feet and see what happens. That might have been too far. Yeah, well, at any rate, I know that it's over 1,000, so if I do something there and I move it back, then I'm good to go, right? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of trim up these lines right here so that they create a closed polygon. Okay, so let's give that a try. So trim that one and that one. Oops. So trim, select that one to cut with and that one to cut back to. So do the same thing on this side. And now I've got to kind of draw one line in here. So let me go ahead and create a line from the end point to the end point. Now I've got a closed perimeter there that I can make the street out of, right? So here goes. I'm going to join all of those. So that's now one surface, and I can go up now as we did last class and go solid, solid, extrude, planar curve, straight. All right, press enter. All right, now here's where the difference is. I've already taken this entire site and moved it down 1 foot, right? So I have to kind of understand if something's going to go down or up. So the streets are going to be 1 foot lower than the platform where I'm going to be working on my building, right? So if I go down you know, I don't know. I'm gonna make it real thick so you guys can see the difference. Okay, but I went down from there. So here's the question for all of you: in regards to the C-plane, where is this surface? Is it at the C-plane, above the C-plane, or below the C-plane? It's below the C-plane. Okay, so the next thing that's really important, once you kind of have created that stuff, you can delete the curvature. We don't need it anymore, right? And take this object and put it on a layer. You've got to become disciplined about doing that type of stuff. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a mess that you can't control. So I'm going to come down here. I believe I have a layer for sidewalks and streets. And now that thing is on layer sidewalks and streets. I'm going to also change the color of it so that it becomes clear that it is different than the other things. So for now, I'm just going to make it blue or something. So there is one of my big thick streets. But remember, the surface is down a foot. Okay, so I've got to do the other street, so I would do the same thing. The other street would go down, okay? So I don't need to do that. You guys can already know. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it back 1,000 feet to where it's in the correct place. Okay? So right now, this is 1 foot down from the reference plane, from the surface, from the C-plane. Okay? The next thing I can do is I can take that thing and turn that layer off for right now. Okay, now I can start to grab more geometry from here and take it across and start to use it to extrude either upward or downward. Now, sidewalks, right? Right now, all of this is 1 foot down from the reference plane, right? So the sidewalks, when you guys are walking like at your house and you cross the street, you step off the curb down, walk across the street, and then step up onto the curb, right? So the curb, when I build these surfaces here, they're going to be up a foot. I'm going to make them 1 foot thick so that they come to the C-plane. Okay? So here goes. I'm going to, once again, hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to copy all of these pieces that I might need. And I'm going to do all the sidewalks at once. All right? Click there. Now, in addition to doing that, I'm also going to grab these pieces right here. Okay? So I'm going to zoom in, and for these, I'm going to grab the angled ones. Actually, I'll grab the angled ones for all of them. I'm sorry, no, I won't. I'm just going to grab the angled ones here, and then for these, I'm going to grab the straight ones. You'll see why in just a moment. Okay? So once again, I'm going to copy it over 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet. Oops, I didn't copy. Control Z. Hold down the Alt key and press that. Type in 1,000 feet. Goes over. And now I have that geometry somewhere over here to work on. Oh, I went the wrong way. Doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and clean up this geometry so that we can create a solid from it. Okay? All right. I need to draw a couple lines. So I'm going to go from endpoint to endpoint. Another one from endpoint to endpoint. One over here. Okay. So I don't want to build a solid here, or here, or here, or here. So I'm going to use the trim command and trim those lines out. Same thing over here. So that is all of the pieces that I now need to extrude upward, 1 foot. Okay, before actually, I'm going to go ahead and try to not join them and see what happens with that extrude planar curve. I think what I'm going to end up getting is a surface, but I'm not sure. Let me give it a try. So I'm going to select all of this. Come up here to surface or solid. Extrude planar curve straight. And this time I'm going to go up a foot. And no, it is creating the entire thing. I think I am getting the top, but let me check. I don't know for sure. Oh, no, you're right. I'm not getting the top.
Because you got to close it.
No, I did get the solid. Control Z. Let me explain why some of you are not getting the top on it. Instead of going to solid extrude planar curve, you're using a different command. You're using one from surface, extrude curve. If I use the wrong one, extrude curve, right, then there's a hole through the thing. See it? You can see inside of it. So that's why some of you might be having an issue. But if you use solid, extrude planar curve straight, right, now I can go up 1 foot, so 12 inches vertically. And there are my sidewalks. I can take all of those pieces now and put them on the sidewalk layer. They're going to turn blue, or actually they're going to disappear when I do that because I've got that layer turned off. So here goes. Switch those to sidewalks and streets. They disappeared. Now if I turn it back on, right, I can see I've got one over here and one over here. So I'm going to go ahead, grab all of these and move them back. Actually, I got to be careful because I've got lines there. I don't want to take the lines back, so I have lines on top of lines. It makes a mess. So I'm going to grab each of the pieces and send them back. So this time it'll be negative 1,000 feet. I can get rid of these lines. I don't need them anymore. All right, so there are my sidewalks. And actually, one of the things I might do is make my sidewalks a different color. So I'm gonna put the sidewalks onto a different layer right now, just so that they're a different color and you can see them clearly. All right, so I'll move those over to. I think I'm gonna go to layer 2 because it's purple. It'll contrast. All right, so some of you might be wondering, okay, well, what do I do in these particular cases, right? Well, in the case of the parking lot, the street and the parking lot are at the same level. So when you put a surface under here, okay, that surface is basically going to extrude downward, and it'll look like the street and the sidewalk, the street and the your parking area are all at the same elevation, okay? But over here, we have a little bit different story. Over here, we're going to do what's called an apron. We're going to create an apron that starts at the higher level and goes down to this level. So I'm going to set layer 2 as current and create that surface. It's going to go from the upper part here to the lower part here. I'm going to rotate to the other side. Oops. I screwed up. Try it again. Sorry. Here to here, and there is the driveway apron. Really, there would be, if you've looked at your house, you'll have observed that there's like an angle here also, so that the car doesn't hit it real hard. But for the purposes of this little model, I don't care. There's a question, so I'm going to pause the video because I suspect it's gotten rather long. All right, so the question was, what did I use to create that surface? I used that tool right there. Okay, so I'll do it one more time over here for you guys. So that tool, which is surface from 4 corner points, I start down at the street level and come up to my site level. Oh, and there's my surface. Okay, so it looks a little bit different because I think it's basically flipped, so I just have to flip it around. But now, if I start just modeling stuff, I basically will be extruding my site upward. Okay, so part of what I'm trying to get you guys to do is to kind of understand where the different things are. So hopefully this video kind of clarifies how you guys might go about working on your site. Okay.